Alright, hey everyone. Haven't had time to do this yet and not going to have all that much time to do it all that soon. So it is time for another pickups video. This is for what seemed like a long month of July. I think there's got to be like an extra week in there somewhere where I did last month's video and am doing this month's video on like August 2nd. August 2nd? August 2nd. Yeah, there's definitely a good mix of stuff this month. There's going to be a lot of GameCube because I'm still GameCube crazy right now, but without any further ado, we can crack into it with this that you might have seen on my Instagram or playing just the other day. This is a copy of Triple Play 2000 that was sealed up until a couple days ago, and I actually don't have the same cartridge because I already had my cartridge with the top label, but my cartridge that I've had for a long time is in my system right now because I'm in the middle of a season playing it for the N64 Quest. And it was really cool. The first couple things I'm actually going to do all came from Declutter. I'll tell you straight up, they don't get a lot of N64 in. This is the first time I've really seen them do it. Which is, of course, because it's in cardboard boxes and they never have cardboard boxes. What the fuck is that in my... Weird. Some sort of widget that I don't recognize up there. It's not malicious. I think it's legitimate. I think it's because of my battery, my recent battery upgrade that I did. Anyway, Triple Play 2000, which I've been having some fun with. It's definitely like right in the middle so far for baseball games on the 64. But it's cool to have this in. This is at least a 9 out of 10 box. There is a little bit of edge crush going on this side here, but mostly it's really, really clean and really fresh. And a weird number that Declutter seems to have is 406. Because I can tell you right now, I paid 406 each for both of these as well. These are 2 box Genesis games. Again, they don't get a whole lot of this stuff in, but I don't buy a lot of cartridge stuff lately. Because it's expensive, because everyone's crazy over it, and because like it's just I don't play it as much. It's just not as exciting to me to pay more for it for when I'm not gonna be playing it anytime soon, really, because for cartridges what I'm playing is N64 and all that other stuff is gonna be around for forever. Just waiting for me to play it while I play new stuff and I play the N64. Which is pretty much what happens with everything, but it's especially true of cartridge stuff because it costs more on average for stuff I want. But anyway, I did get 2 Genesis games. This is Tecmo Super Baseball, which I just don't see that much with the kid. I don't see it that much in general, but I definitely don't see the Tecmo games that much with their cases and stuff, and this is complete. It's missing the front page of the manual, but big deal. Because I paid $4 for it. So that's cool. It's a nice looking one on the shelf. All the Tecmo stuff, it feels cool to have them, and I guess that's come around on why they always put their name in their titles, like Tecmo Super Baseball, Tecmo Bowl, Tecmo Secret of the Stars, Tecmo Deception. I guess eventually I'm kind of getting on board with that because it does seem kind of cool. I don't know. And then this is not the arcade game, but this is the T2 Judgment Day side-scrolling game. I really want to kind of posit this question to people, like on Twitter and stuff too. I'm on Twitter. I think I'm just Scorpion9199 on Twitter because you can only have the one account. It's not like you can switch. But anyway, I was going to say, do people know what I'm talking about when I say a game is, a 90s platformer? Because like this is a 90s platformer, that's what it is, and it's about a movie I like, and it's not terrible, I guess. A 90s platformer being basically side-scrolling, some platforming, probably some action, 2 or 3 attacks that you can pull off. There's a health bar and there's power-ups. It's the stereotype of what video games used to be. Because, Nintendo, if that makes sense. I don't know if other people understand what I mean if I say that, but I've described a lot of games like that at this point, and so like T2, it's a 90s platformer. It's a 90s typical action game. That's how I'd say it. I'm going to do a couple other things that are just one or two items. First Vita game I've bought in a while because it was Luminous Electric Symphony. I still have not played a single one of these games, but it's one of the few Vita games left that's not an RPG that I would actually play at some point. So I grabbed that, but not for very much because I don't think that game is even brand new. I think it's probably $10. Two PSP games. Speaking of rhythm games, Parappa the Rapper. Finally have a good way to play Parappa the Rapper. Another potential way I will actually talk about later, but this is probably the best way to do it without spending as much as the original goes for, which would be I think it's around $50. It'd be probably as low as 30, but 30 to $50 for everything except for the poster, and then $70 for the poster. For complete with the poster is what I should say. And then they did this a couple years ago, and you can still get this game sealed, so this is super cheap on the PSP, and realistically it's probably the best way to play it at this point. Oh, and they made it for PS4. They reprinted it for PS4 in Japan on physical, which is really cool, but I don't want to buy that. And then Coded Arms Contagion, which is the sequel to a first-person shooter published by Konami on the PSP. First-person shooters on the PSP don't necessarily work out that great, but Konami and whoever the hell it was, it's really just Konami in-house, and it says powered by GameSpy, which is a funny thing that I see on games sometimes now. I was playing NHL Hits Pro on Twitch the other day, and it was powered by GameSpy, the online, and I just thought that was funny. But I played the first one when I was a kid, and they're both, I think, pretty decent first-person shooters, given that it's the PSP and it doesn't have two sticks. The Vita could have been a great first-person shooter machine, and it has a couple good ones, but and one really bad one, the Call of Duty Black Ops one. But, yeah, the first-person shooters on PSP aren't necessarily going to work that great, but that one I think is pretty solid, especially given that it's a ground-up PSP first-person shooter. I always like that. Two Switch games. I'm actually really, really mad at myself that I have not popped this in and started playing it yet, because I bought it the day it came out, which was actually my birthday. I bought it on July 19th, my birthday, when it came out. Excuse me. I'm also drinking a beer because I just got home from work. But Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, I haven't played it yet, and I really, really wanted to pick it up on launch day or close to launch because I wanted to support it as a Switch exclusive. So they got my money, but I haven't played it yet, and I'm really... I checked the reviews real quick before I went and stopped in at Best Buy to get it, and it got 7.5s to 8s from critics and 8s to 9s from users, and I was like, good enough for me. That's as good as I think anyone's going to really review it, and that's exactly what I want. I don't want it to be too complex, which is what people said. I just got to sit down and play the fucking thing. And Grip from Wired Productions, who I actually really like. They've been making some cool games lately. This is like a combat racer. Basically, it's inspired heavily by a PS1. There's two PS1 games. It's called Roll Cage, where you can flip upside down. And actually, the really cool thing that I just noticed, I feel stupid for just noticing it, but when I was grabbing all the games to do this, it's, yeah, the logo is the same upside down, which is really cool, because that's how the racing works. Also looking forward to trying that, but really, really bummed that I haven't sat down and played Marvel Ultimate Alliance yet. As I was saying earlier, I really don't buy that many cartridge games anymore because I don't typically get around to playing them that much. However, if you know Retro Gamer Dad on Instagram, super nice guy, really good dude, part of the sort of Instagram community with a lot of followers and shoutouts and what have you, all that shit on Instagram. Poor guy had to call it quits on getting his full SNES collection a couple months ago. I was really bummed about it. And he's still kind of selling all his stuff, and I promise you, Mike, that these are going to a good home. I may not play them all that frequently, but, I hope you're okay with me grabbing these games off of you, and there's going to be 2 games. I think at least 2 games coming as well in another package that he just sent out yesterday. but I did get Jurassic Park 1 and 2 for the Super Nintendo, because these are totally different from the Sega Genesis Jurassic Park games. I know the first one is really like just a top-down shooter, and I know the second one has is a bit more different. It has, I think, more variations of gameplay styles, and I really like Jurassic Park, and I like the Jurassic Park games and stuff, especially when they're action games. So, looking forward to playing those at some point. And also, not a great shoot 'em up, but I did get D-Force. I even checked the SNES Omnibus and everything like that. I was like, does anyone have really anything good to say about it? But he wasn't selling it for too much, because it doesn't go for that much, because even as a shoot 'em up, it's not that great and people don't want it that much. But it's a shoot 'em up, and I felt obligated to just kind of add that in. So good stuff. Thank you again, Retro Gamer Dad. Follow him on Instagram, because he's still posting stuff. He just isn't going for the Super Nintendo full set, which I believe was a good chunk past the halfway point of. But things happen. I got some PS1 stuff, but I also got a PS1 Classic. I have the box and everything. It's over there. You might even be able to, yeah, you know what? You can actually see it in the shadows up in the corner there. But I got a PS1 Classic because they're $20 now, and that's worth it to fuck around with. And one of the ways that you can fuck around with it is you can buy one of these USB sticks called the True Blue Mini, I should say. And they're preloaded with around 100 games. There's one that's a fighting game pack, which has all the good fighting games on it, and it's more like 50 games. And there's a little bit of crossover with the fighting game pack and the other ones. But this is the first one I bought. I was thinking about getting a second one, but I'm also trying to mess around with that, where it's supposed to be really easy to hack. And I've been trying my ass off. I've been working at it, and for something that's supposed to be really easy to hack, I'm also really stupid and don't know what I'm doing. So I'm still kind of working at it. But in the meantime, if you don't want to try that, if you don't think you know what you're doing, and you don't want to try it, you can just buy one of these. They're like $20 each on Amazon. There's the Crackhead pack, which is this one here. They named them the Crackhead pack, the Weed pack, and the Meth pack. And there isn't any crossover, unless you get the fighting one, because the fighting one, there's a couple fighting games on the other packs. There is a little bit of filler, and of course it's not like you get to pick exactly what you get, so, you know, there's 100 games or so on here. I got really excited about, like 10 of them, and I was like, yeah, that's the one I want to get. Diablo, both Tombas, those are the ones that I knew, like, I really wanted that were on this one, so that's why I got this one. And like I said, I was considering getting another one anyway, but we'll see how the hacking it myself pans out before I go buy another one, but that's a good way to go. If you just want $20 for the system, $20 for the True Blue, you spend $40 on the PS Classic, and you get 100 extra games out of it. It's pretty good. At least 100 extra games. As you get 100 extra games per extra $20 you spend, you could buy all 4 True Blue mini packs and still spend as much as the original MSRP for the PS Classic. So there you go. But I did also get some other PS1 games in here this month. This looks like a kid's game, and I've thought, at first glance it totally looks like a kid's game, but it's Rosco McQueen Firefighter Extreme, and the name also is not backing me up here. However, if you've seen some games on the Super Nintendo like Ignition Factor and Fireman, this is actually a lot like those games from what I've seen. It's got pretty good reviews and ratings on all the sites, GameFAQs and whatnot. So when this came up pretty cheap, I was like, you know what, I think I will grab that. It's by Psygnosis, who are as prolific as all hell on the PS1. Some good, some bad, but it's supposed to be pretty cool. And I've always thought that the Firefighter games like on SNES look pretty cool. So let's just try this out, see if I like firefighting in a video game. Then we have Wing Commander 4, Price of Freedom. Naturally a 4-disc game on the PS1 because of all these beautiful FMV cutscenes starring your favorite Wing Commander stars, Mark Hamill and Malcolm McDowell. I can't say for sure that I'm really into the Wing Commander for gameplay, but it's the Mark Hamill and Malcolm McDowell and the cutscene stuff that really draws me in and makes me want to try them. Bugs Bunny and Taz Time Busters. Now, I've been watching a lot of Cat Icarus lately, because I've found him to be better than a lot of other people that I've watched, but he talks about the PS1 a lot, and he really enjoyed a game that I revisited from my childhood like a year or two ago, Bugs Bunny Lost in Time. And he loved that game, and I feel like I need to also give that another chance as an adult, because I loved it as a kid, didn't think it was that great as an adult, and then someone else was like, this is brilliant. I was like, really? However, the sequel to it, Bugs Bunny and Taz Time Busters, is another one that's also kind of always gotten good reviews and good hearsay and everything, so I would like to try this one, at least before I go back to Lost in Time, and see if I just really enjoy this one. Because I've always heard pretty good things about that one. Grand Theft Auto, Mission Pack 1, London 1969. To me, the most interesting thing about the old version of Grand Theft Auto is this London Mission Pack, for a couple reasons. Besides just the setting and the fact that I really like that and I want to try those missions. The way that this works. You need to use the original Grand Theft Auto 1 as a boot disc for your PS1. So basically, you can't just play this by itself, even though it's on its own disc, it's standalone, everything. You need to put the GTA London disc in there, and then it's going to tell you, open the disc tray, and put GTA 1 in, and then it'll be like, alright, you do own GTA 1, now put GTA London back in and you can play it. Which is insane to me, but God bless them, I just think it's wonderful that they did it that way. Courier Crisis, which is a bike messenger racing kind of crazy taxi type of game. I just always thought this looked really goofy, so I grabbed it for a couple bucks. That would be funny. And lastly, for PS1, Oddworld Apes Exoddus. I still have not played either of the PS1 Oddworld games or Munch's Odyssey, really. I just remember, I like the Oddworld style, I like all that stuff, and I gotta play the older ones. I love Stranger's Wrath, though. That is the one that I've played now, and I think is just absolutely brilliant. 2 DS games, one of them is super popular, and you've definitely heard of. One of them, you'd be like, what is that trash? Super Princess Peach actually had been on my wish list for a long, long time, and I don't remember what it was that I had something to bring to work. I totally forget what it was, but I had something to bring to work, and was like, I have this much to, just grab something else from work, and I took this, because it was on my list for a long time. Super Princess Peach, super cool. And then this looks like trash. It's Sports Collection, published by Ubisoft for the Nintendo DS. I see these names come up on Declutter all the time, and they look like trash, and the DS has so much shovelware and so much garbage. But I always am interested in, if sports games actually work or something like that when they look like that, like garbage. And this one actually has really good ratings on GameFAQs. It has a 4.05, which is wild, and it's not over 1,000 reviews or anything. But it's over enough reviews that it gets a rating and isn't just the minimum of 5. So I think I spent $6 on this. It's got baseballs. It's got a bunch of bullshit on it. Worth a try. I always am interested in that if it turns out good. Also weird to get off of Declutter of all places is some boxed Game Boy stuff. I actually had some, I don't know if it was last month, but I did get one Driver 2 for the Advance, which is a Stop Skeletons from Fighting punching weight specialty. Shout out to them, because they are probably my new favorite YouTube channel. They just talk about Derek. The guy's name is Derek as well. Just talks about the most ridiculous shit. This kind of stuff that I like to buy. And the most recent video they did, I watched last night, was the portable Mortal Kombat ports, which is a great video. Fully recommend watching them. But this is, so I bought the Driver 2 game a couple months ago. Maybe I want to say it was 2 months ago. But then a couple games popped up for Game Boy on Declutter for a couple bucks, and that means it's going to have the box. So I grabbed Croc 2, which is supposed to be decent on Game Boy Color rather, and All-Star Baseball 2000, which I don't think is great on Game Boy Color, but it was cheap enough that I was like, fuck it, it's going to have the box, I want it. And this one is sealed. This is Kong, 8th Wonder of the World, which again, Not a great game, but not a terrible game, and interesting to me. I do like the Peter Jackson King Kong game, and I do like the Peter Jackson King Kong movie. And I know it's supposed to not be that popular, but I do like it, and I like it enough to pick up that game, honestly. I have just one PS3 game this month because I found it actually at the flea market. I have lived next to the flea market, like here in Londonderry, for just over a year now. It's about 2 miles away from my apartment, and I have not been there once since I've lived up here because I just didn't feel like going. I went there for the first time the other day, not looking for video games. I wasn't there for that. I bought some CDs from Doink the Clown, who sells at the flea market here in Londonderry. Not the Doink the Clown, not Matt Bourne, but anyway. I bought some CDs from him. It was cool. It was a nice day. I walked around with Alexi, who was back there. And we had a good time. But this, I saw this. This goes for like $40. This Tiger Woods 14 Masters Historic Edition on PS3. And it's from that era of Tiger Woods. This was the last one that they made with Tiger's name on it. And it didn't sell well because this had Tiger's name on it in 2014. And it was still a yearly game at that point. And so, but it's got the Masters, and it's one of those ones I figured I'd never go out and buy because it's $40 for Tiger Woods, but here we are. I grabbed this for $5. It was like that sort of like, you see it out of the corner in your eye out of somebody's pile of trash, and it's $5. I'm like, yeah, I want this. So cool. PS4 stuff. Best Buy had their Black Friday summer sale, Black Friday and July sale, and easily the best thing from it for me was WWE 2K19 was on sale for $15, which means I paid like $12 for it. Wouldn't it be $12? Yeah, $12. I paid $12 for it. Not so much because I need to play the most recent WWE game, but because it has a showcase mode in it, which is about Daniel Bryan, which is awesome. But I have played some. I've messed around with it. I like it. It's good, and I got it for fairly cheap, considering it was on sale. I would have waited till I would have paid $10 for it. So I paid $12 for it. So whatever. And then the other three I got for PS4 this month are all VR games. Even though since I finished Astrobot not that long ago, I think it was 2 weeks ago now, I finished Astrobot, and I haven't really picked it back up, but I need to. Because I've gotten all these awesome games for it. Some of the weirder games for it now too. This is Wolfenstein Cyberpilot. So 2 Wolfenstein games came out at the end of last month. Wolfenstein Youngblood, which I will pick up eventually for the Switch, and Cyberpilot, which is a VR $20 game that I grabbed the same day I got the WWE 2K19. It takes place in 1980. I'm really, really looking forward to trying it because I've come to the realization that even though it's only over the 2 games I've played since it's been truly rebooted, I haven't played the PS3 360 one yet, but if we're looking at Wolfenstein: The New Order, Wolfenstein: The New Colossus, and Wolfenstein: The Old Blood, Wolfenstein might currently be like my favorite non-Nintendo series. That's how much I've enjoyed the 2.5 games that have come out. So if you count this as about a half a game too, it'll be like my favorite series going right now. It would only be three full games plus Youngblood when I get there too. I got to go back and play the original Xbox One and finish that, and play the reboot that's just called Wolfenstein, and I'll be able to make a really decent evaluation of that, because I'm not going to count the old ones. Those are the pre-Doom Return to Wolfenstein, or the, God forbid, the Apple II. I think it's an Apple II stealth game. But I am really looking forward to this, and just how well Wolfenstein is doing, and how much I enjoy the story of that franchise right now. But moving on with it, this was an import one, Arizona Sunshine. This is another first-person shooter that works with the Move controller. So I need to play Farpoint really bad with my aim controller. I have not used my aim controller yet, but I'll be using that at some point, and I'll also be using it to play Arizona Sunshine, which is like a somewhat comedic tone zombie shooting game. It takes place in Southwest. And then this finally was a really weird one too, but I think I bought this with a Amazon gift card because I've been eyeballing all these imports. Europe has so many more PSVR physicals than we have over here. A bunch of the games that are PSVR over here are just downloads, but I'm really into buying the import versions of them, like Arizona Sunshine. And this game, which is Zen Studios VR Collection. Zen Studios is probably most well known at this point for one of the games that's on here, which is Pinball Effects. So there's a Pinball Effects 2 VR. There's also, I would say there's 4 games on here. 2 of them are super interesting to me, and I really want to play them. Pinball Effects VR and Infinite Mini Golf. The other 2 seem cool as well. It's called Castle Storm, which is like a management tower defense game, according to the critic quote on the back. And Out of Ammo, which is FPS RTS blend, again, according to this thing on the back. So 2 of the games I bought because they looked really super cool, and the other 2 games are also supposed to be pretty cool as well. So really looking forward to continuing to mess around with the PSVR. And that's mostly what I buy for PlayStation 4 games at this point, it feels like. I have only one Wii game, but it is a really, really big deal that I finally got this game, because I've probably been waiting to get this game for 5 years now. It's Data East Arcade Classics. And I'm so glad I waited. I paid... So I have 2 games in my pickups this month that I paid more for from Declutter than I've paid for any other game from them. The top 2 are in here, and they're both around $33. I paid $33 for Data East Arcade Classics. Waiting for this game to come in at work. Waiting to probably just pick up a disc only of this for less than $30. And just waiting for something to happen that I would just have a reason to get this game and not pay $60+ for it. And I paid $33 for it. I'm so glad I waited for it for so long. And here it is. It's not... It's funny because it really does look like the SNK Volume 1 collection that I also have on Wii, and was really the game that kickstarted my love for SNK stuff. But it's got just some really good games from Data East: Burger Time, Caveman Ninja, Heavy Barrel, Bad Dudes, Magical Drop 3, big one. It has also got the Weird Burger Time sequel, Peter Pepper's Ice Cream Factory, Lock and Chase. It's got some other cool games, some cool looking games too. It's only 15 games, but they're all games that are either like really good and don't get ported to a lot of other places, or they're very obscure games, and I'm very interested in them. So yeah, this is a big one off of my actual legitimate wish list of games I wanted to get. So did not mind paying $33 for that. 3 PS2 games, and then we'll finish up with a big stack of GameCube games. This is another one that I actually did want for a long time, but I always hesitated to get it because it looked so weird and like so wrong. Sega Classics Collection has a bunch of... It's like a pre-Sega Genesis collection because it's not really a bunch of Genesis games so much as it's a compilation of the 3D, very primitive 3D remakes of games that Sega had made for, like, I think it was early PS2 budget titles. And so they compiled them on this. So you have these really, really cheap-looking primitive 3D versions of, I'll read them off the back, Outrun, Space Harrier, Virtua Racing. Somehow they very slightly upgraded Virtua Racing so that it looks like PS1 level 3D instead of pre-PS1, I would say just regular Sega Genesis doing the best they can. Golden Axe, Alien Syndrome. There's 10 games listed on the back here. I think it's all 10 of them. I don't think there's any more than what's listed here, but it's just a goofy looking game that I was always like, didn't really want to buy because I don't think it's a really good representation of any of the games, but it is just a very a weird thing to observe. This one here is Tony Hawk's Downhill Jam, and it's probably the last Tony Hawk game I'll buy until Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5 is $5, because that's about what it's worth, it seems. But Tony Hawk's Downhill Jam is weird because it's a racing-oriented game based off of the Downhill Jam style levels from the super early Pro Skater games. And the thing about getting it on PS2, which I paid like $350 for, is that it's one of those games that is a PS2, PSP, Wii, and sometimes DS game. It's one of that, like, released for those consoles games that I'm like, no, I don't want this for the Wii, I want this for PS2. This literally looks like it was made for PS2, and then they stretched it out everywhere else, and I want it for the system that seems like it's the speed of. So that's what that is. It's probably going to be my least favorite Tony Hawk game, but, yeah, I have it now. I don't have it for a gimmicky system like the Wii or the DS, because it's just Tony Hawk and I don't need it for. I want it on traditional controls. And then last for PS2 is Crash of the Titans. I had really abstained from wanting anything post Twinsanity for a long time, but the more I watch Cat Icarus, Ant Dude, I think those are the two main guys that I watch do videos on this. But it's supposed to actually be pretty good. This one in particular, so. I'm willing to give it a try, even though it's eventually what led to Skylanders. And then finally, GameCube games, because I'm crazy, and I'm specifically GameCube crazy. Incredibles, Rise of the Underminer. I see people going crazy for this game all the time. They seem to be really, really into it. And I've got the first Incredibles game. It's not like I've played it, but this is like following up how the movie ends, the first movie, and how the second movie starts. And it's like beat 'em up with Mr. Incredible and Frozone, and people seem to really like it. So it always sells really fast at work. So good one seems to add to the PS2 collection, PS2 GameCube collection, because it specifically would want it on GameCube, didn't want it on PS2. Crash Tag Team Racing. Again, I really was not gonna be into getting Crash post Twinsanity stuff. Especially when you look at all the characters from like that are in these games, it's like I don't know who any of these people are, and the people I do know who they are, they look terrible. I don't want them. But it's supposed to still be decent, so I'm really just feeling like a big Crash Bandicoot fan at this point. I'll take most of it. Bomberman Jetters. This is one of two GameCube Bomberman platforming type 3D platformer type games. The other one is Generations. I feel like I see Generations more actually than Jetters, and I feel like it's because nobody bought Jetters because they don't know what the hell that means. But anyway, especially considering I really like Bomberman Hero. I didn't like Bomberman 64 so much. I'll keep saying this till the day I die. Bomberman 64 is kind of lame. You can't jump, and then Bomberman Hero sounds like it would be lame because it's Bomberman 64 with more focus on the single player and no multiplayer. And it's like, well, people buy it for multiplayer. Why would you buy a single player? Because the single player is so goddamn good in that game. And that's kind of what I'm hoping for when I get around to the two GameCube ones. That they'll do something interesting with the single player, and I'll actually want to play it. This is Gun. It's a game I already own for PS2. It's post-Red Dead Revolver, but pre-Red Dead Redemption and pre-Call of Juarez. And I actually think it's really good. It's made by Neversoft, and I've played a bit of it on PS2, and I really like it. And I was like, you know what? I don't really see this game all that much for GameCube at work or anything. So when I had the chance to buy it for GameCube, I was like, yeah, do it. I literally pulled the trigger on Gun because I like that game a lot. And I would like to have it for GameCube. Worms Blast. I literally try not to buy any Worms games because I've spent $225 on a Worms game, and I don't like that I did that, but I did. It had to happen at that point. But this one, thankfully, is not really a traditional Worms game, so I'm kind of cool having it. It's more like a bust-a-move combined with Worms, and that's interesting to me. So I'll dig it. Again, I do not like these games. They play horribly, but Legends of Wrestling 2, I remember trying it on PS2 once, and before I was really into wrestling, I was very amused by the fact that the story career mode is based around the territories, the pre-nationalized WWF territory system, and they basically revolve around storylines that involve the bookers, or caricatures of the bookers from those territories. So the Northeast is run by Vince Jr., Vince McMahon, And he plays. They have caricatures of these people. There's a Vern Gagne. There's a Stu Hart, I believe. I'm spitballing here that these are actually the guys that they picked to represent them, because I saw the map and there's only like 5 territories. But my guess is basically because I've seen the Vincent Kennedy McMahon caricature, and I'm guessing that it's Vern Gagne, Stu Hart, Jim Crockett, or Dusty Rhodes. They might pick Dusty Rhodes as far as who to represent in the game because it's more interesting. But that's what really drew me to that, specifically Legend of Wrestling 2. The game plays like ass. I know that. I know that 100%. Splinter Cell Double Agent. For the GameCube, I now have the first Splinter Cell and I have Double Agent. And I'll probably pick up the middle 2 games, even though I'm terrible at stealth games. I'm at least grateful to have this one because I believe this is when it kind of starts going to a little bit more of an action-y type. I mean, look at that explosion. But a little bit more action-y. And so, Splinter Cell's being so good, I am interested in picking them up, even though I'm not good at the specific type of game. This is the other game on Declutter that I spent more money on than I have ever spent on Declutter before, in addition to Data East. So basically had 2 $33 purchases I totally wasn't planning on, and still kind of made on a whim. But $33 for Phantasy Star Online Episode 1 and 2 complete is really, really, really good. And I hope that I eventually am actually going to pick that game up and start playing it. It is the Phantasy Star game I would like to play because it's an action RPG. And it's supposed to be fantastic, phenomenal. So, I'm into it. Wave Race, Blue Storm. There's a lot of parallels to be made between Wave Race and 1080. And whereas I think Wave Race 64 is fantastic, I've never bothered to pick up Wave Race on the GameCube. But I don't think necessarily that, like, Splashdown or... what's the other one I'm trying to think of? Jet X2O, not necessarily are better than this one. However, the failure of 1080 Avalanche on the GameCube is that other games had been doing 1080 better, namely SSX, and snowboarding had exploded so much by that point that it was kind of lost in the shuffle. Wave Race on the GameCube is, it sticks out because there's no Splashdown, there's no other stuff. So I do think Wave Race will be really cool on the GameCube. And then lastly, finally, we have Ed, and Eddy, the Mis-Edventures. There are so many licensed games out there for the PS2 era, which is, of course, my favorite era that's not the N64 specifically. And just the GameCube is just the way to go on all of them for me. I still don't have Shrek 2, and it's because people seem to actually want Shrek 2 for the GameCube now. And I'm so mad that I never got Shrek 2 before, and now it's starting to go up a little bit in price, and I'm like adamant about not paying more than $5 for Shrek 2 because it's in the top 30 best-selling GameCube games ever with more than 1 million copies. But anyway, back to Ed, and Eddy. I'm not saying it's a great game, but I do love the cartoon, and if I'm going to own stuff based on cartoons I really like, it's going to be on GameCube. No question about it. There we go. That's a big month of pickups. Thank you for listening to me blather on about them. And I'll see you next month.